Hello to everyone. Good afternoon. I'm so excited to be here today to have this discussion with our distinguished panel. My name, as Sean mentioned, is Valencia Martin Wallace. My job here at the USPTO is the Deputy Commissioner for Patents. I oversee the areas of international patent cooperation as well as oversight over technology centers, examining applications for mechanical technologies, telecommunications, and our design applications as well. I also have the privilege of being the executive lead supporting the director of the USPTO on the implementation of the National Council for Expanding American Innovation, a council made up of a large group of wonderful leaders in the field of innovation and intellectual property community who've come together to help USPTO support and assist in the development of national strategy for expanding innovation, which is the perfect segue to our panel's topic today, which is creating a pathway to innovation. And we will hear from our panelists about their insights on creating a more inclusive innovation community, hearing from their own experiences as well as what they've done to help support others. So with that, I will not waste any time because I'm very excited to hear from all three of these panelists. I have heard from them before. I've had conversations with them, and I've heard from them on this topic and many others. And they are a very, very impressive group of leaders in the IP and innovation communities. So I will just start by asking Derek Kendall, Vice President and Associate General Counsel of Global Fabric and Home Care for the Procter & Gamble Company, to please give us a little bit more information about you and introduce yourself to our group today.
It's my pleasure to be here, so greetings everyone. I have been practicing in the area of patent law for, I think, 24 years. I don't know how this happened. I came out of law school back then, and I actually was trained as a chemical engineer, so I went to law school to study patent law, and I came to P&G straight out of law school. So as you can see from the gray hairs, it's been a minute. And the funny thing is, it's like I remember diversity being taught very strongly when I first entered the walls of Procter & Gamble, and I was thinking, oh well, that's a problem that will go away. We'll figure that out. And here we are, like 24 years later, we're still having the same conversation. So clearly, there's still work to be done. But I'm really looking forward to the conversation on how we can expedite us getting to a more diverse and inclusive environment for us all. And so I think the key there is for us all to be uncomfortable. I always talk about that. Just get out of your comfort zone, and as soon as you do that, you'll grow. So let's be diverse and inclusive.
Absolutely, thank you. Next, I'd like to introduce our next panelist, Suzanne Harrison, the founder of The Gathering. And Suzanne, if you could share with us and our participants today on your background.
Sure. I'm actually not a lawyer. I have an economics degree, and I came at this through the finance world, originally helping companies calculate damages for litigation cases, patent infringement as an example. And I found myself really liking the inventors and realizing that I didn't want to work on the outcome of what happened. I wanted to help fix it before it started. And so I changed consulting to work with companies around what we now know as intellectual property management. And I've helped, I think, establish that you can use intellectual property as both a legal asset and a business asset, and that companies can make better informed decisions about intellectual property and how they can get value out of that. And so I created a group called The Gathering, which is a group of about 20 companies at a time that meet and create best practices for how to do that routinely. And it's been, I think, 27 years that group's been going now.
And as you said, and your background may not be in the typical of IP, but in innovation, it's pivotal and vital as we grow our innovation ecosystem. So our last panelist, I'm very pleased to introduce Holly Fechner, partner at the law firm of Covington and Burling. If you could please give us some more information about yourself.
It's such a pleasure to be here with you and Dara and Suzanne for this important conversation. And just at the top, I want to thank you for your leadership at the NCEAI. It's been a tremendous process. I'm sure we'll talk more about that today, but you've really been a star in leading that effort. So I am a partner at Covington and Burling, a law firm in Washington, D.C. I'm co-chair of our technology industry group, but I also serve as executive director of a group called Invent Together, and would very much encourage the people participating in our event today to go to inventtogether.org to learn more about the organization. But what we found is that there are large and disturbing patent gaps where women, people of color, and lower income people don't invent and patent as much as their share of the population, or certainly as much as we all think they should and want them to. So the organization has been doing extensive research on the patent gaps, but also leading up efforts both in the public policy and the private sector to try to close those gaps. So very much looking forward to sharing more details about what we're up to as part of our conversation today. And I come at these issues from a very long history of working on gender and race justice issues. Before coming to the law firm, I worked for Senator Kennedy and worked on very similar issues in a different context. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank all three of you for being here with us. Just with your intro, that's just the tip of the iceberg with the three of you, but it's amazing the work that you've done, not only as professionals in this career and leaders in, as I mentioned, in IP communities and innovation communities, but how you're bringing people with you. This is not an individual's challenge or fight. It has to be all of us together working on this, and all three of you have in an amazing way brought others with you to help to champion what's going on here. And I use that word specifically, champion. There's always something on the personal side as well as professional side of doing work like this and being a champion to provide more diversity, bringing more women, more people of color into a community, into a business that has not been the most welcoming in its history. It takes more than just the professional, it takes a passion for doing the work. So if you could each share with us, and maybe we start with Holly, on what drives you to be a champion to create a more diverse and inclusive IP and innovation community?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, for me, it's a moral imperative. Our country is certainly not perfect. I think we've been striving to perfect our union for over 200 years. We still have a long way to go. I think particularly the events of the last year have shown us some cracks in how we include people based on race, based on gender, based on other factors that are out of people's control. So to me, it really is a moral imperative to work on this issue. But in addition to that, there's no doubt that we would all benefit in so many other ways by doing this too. I don't think anybody knows more about how important intellectual property is to our economy than those at the USPTO. But one of the things that we know is that if we did include all women, people of color, and lower income individuals who want to invent and patent in the innovation ecosystem, that we would have 4 times as many inventors, and we would have up to $1 trillion more dollars in our gross domestic product. As we think about the future, both of individuals, their families, and our nation, it's just a no-brainer. There is no doubt that we need to be committed to trying to expand who participates in our innovation ecosystem.
Absolutely. You bring about some really great points there, that this is for the individual, but it's for the nation as well. It's for the betterment of our society and growth. Dara, can you please also share with us?
I think Holly pointed out some great points around why it's important. You know, I think this is a really easy one for me, especially as a corporate attorney. You know, I see what happens when our workforce does not mimic our consumer base. So like the big or the easy example for me is in the area of Black hair care. You know, Black women spend thousands of dollars a year on their hair, whether it's natural like mine or whether they wear it straightened. And even though I don't have that much hair, I still spend a lot of money. So it seems like a no-brainer to me to have people who are on our research and development teams that understand the culture of hair, the challenges, and what are the delights that the consumer is looking for. So our company has been on a journey to build, you know, R&D teams, IP teams that basically get it. So we're starting to make headways in Black hair care, and we've seen a bunch of launches over the last few years, just trying to get to what is it that consumers want. And another area that I think of most prominently is skincare. That's an area where, you know, you've just got so many different types of skin. It helps to have people with different skins, different perspectives, different experiences. So if we can have an R&D team, a legal team that includes men, women, Asians, Latinx, Black, white, you've got the representation that gives you an understanding of what that consumer is dealing with. So for me, diversity makes each of us an integral piece of the puzzle, and we need all of those pieces to make that complete picture. So for me, I just want to make sure that I'm doing my part to make sure that my legal team represents the consumer base, and that keeps me fired up.
Oh, absolutely. I understand exactly what you're saying. It really is diversity of opinion that's going to help us grow, and we all have to be included, and we all have to be conscious of making sure that we are all included. Suzanne, if you don't mind also sharing what has made you a champion in this arena?
Yeah, I think a lot of it just has to be my experience being the only woman in the room for most of my career, and realizing that's horrible. I mean, I don't want to go to the bathroom and talk to myself when everyone else is having a whole party in the men's bathroom. It just makes, you know, it's a little lonely. And also you don't really get that networking. You don't get that growth experience. And so I too, like Dara, thought, well, you know, this will be solved in a few years. It'll be done. You know, I've been doing this for 30 years. And, you know, I finally just reached my point where I was like, okay, if I can't help companies figure out how to solve this, then it's useless, right? And so for the last year and a half, I've been working with the Gathering to get them to think about what are best practices that we can implement today to get more diversity in inventorship. And the first thing, again, follows on some pretty obvious. Let's tie it to a business goal. Companies solve problems all the time when they feel it's in their best interest. Maybe it's, as Dara said, maybe it's getting closer to your customer base. Maybe it's going to help you in PR and marketing. Maybe it's going to help you in a different way, but let's figure out what those are and tie this issue to that, because that way companies will solve it. And also find other things that we can do. And And I will say that we are not done. This is a complex problem, but we are almost there, and we're getting to the point where we're looking to begin to share those with the world. I'm a board member with a group called the U.S. Intellectual Property Alliance, usipa.org. And I'm the co-chair of the Diversity and Inclusion Committee. And so we are working with Invent Together, USPTO, all these organizations who have disparately been doing really good work in a piece of the puzzle, and trying to bring all those together in a cohesive framework so that people can learn and implement immediately all these things they need to know with how to solve this problem.
Absolutely, thank you. And let me stop and just tell our audience right now that you've already heard of some really great organizations that are working on this issue, this challenge with Invent Together, with USIPA, with Gathering. We would love to share the links, and we will share the links with you after our panel so that you can get more information on what they have to offer, as well as how you can get involved. So know that will be coming for you soon. And I just want to just go back to what you said, Suzanne, about we're almost there. We've made great strides, and we're almost there. And I agree with you. I mean, we've made great strides for women in two fields, in technical areas as well as law that were not created for us, or we were very inclusive of, but we've made great strides in it. But you know what? We still have a lot of challenges ahead of us. Where do you see, if each of you could answer, and maybe start with Dara this time, where do you see the biggest challenges for women as we're advancing in the innovation ecosystem today?
Okay, I'm going to do that. Speak while I'm on mute. Somebody has to do it. But, I honestly think a lot of times women struggle with not being a natural part of the boys club. And I think that's where a lot of the magic happens on a daily basis. I mean, it could be in the area of tech, business, finance, law. So it doesn't matter what the arena is. Those nuggets are being passed around in those circles, and sometimes that sharing of information is intentional, but oftentimes it just happens as a matter of course because they're all together talking. So I feel like we as women have to be a bit more proactive in making sure that we're connected with those that have that experience in the field of our interest, or even those tangential fields that might be useful for the field that we're in. So like in the old days, folks would head to the bar, play tennis, or maybe head to the links or something like that. But like today, we're focusing on, okay, how do we connect virtually, right? And we figured out that we can do it, and we can do it very well. So I think that is something that is going to have to continue in the future, even if we get back to, a real world where we can meet in person. Like we have to continue to be intentional about our connects. And we have to get out of our own way. I think some of the speakers in the earlier hour were talking about, we just have to get out of our own way and believe that we can, and speak up and ask for just a few minutes of their time to have a conversation, because people are more than willing to just talk and pour into, their counterparts or the next generation. And I can say that I've done this way more in the last year than I ever have. And I'm connecting with people in the areas of finance, because I've been clueless about finance for the last 20 years as a patent attorney, logistics, engineering, regulatory, advertising. I mean, who would have thought? And then IP, of course. So I think we just have to know that we're capable and give that air of confidence off that our counterparts do, and make sure that people are hearing what we have to say. And then I think the final thing that I would mention is that I think another challenge that we have to overcome is, maybe it's as a society, it's the mindset of certain men, so that they can start seeing us as their equals. So a lot of times, if you think of women in the room as a sister, a mother, a daughter, you're not going to want your relative to be treated as less than. So if men can keep that in mind, then it becomes very easy to see all that we bring to the table. So
Absolutely, thank you. Suzanne, do you have anything to add?
I mean, I think all those things are true. And I also think that if, fundamentally, if you want to be an innovator, you have to go kick down some doors, right? I mean, unfortunately, people just don't open them to us automatically. Back in 2007 to 2008, I was starting a company. I started a company to create a patent marketplace. And I was fortunate enough to hook up with one of the first women VCs who decided to mentor me. And, she told me a couple things that were really interesting. The first is that, the dirty secret for venture capitalists is that first-time inventors have the biggest ideas and will make them the most money. And largely they have those ideas because they don't know how hard it is to do this. And so they think really big. And so they always are in searching for those people who haven't been beaten down by the system or don't know how hard it is, because those are the ones that are going to make money. And two, what I found is, sexism is rampant in Silicon Valley, right? That's where I am. I had to have people curate who I could go speak with. I had people tell me to my face, we will never fund a woman. All of those things. And yet, in spite of all that, I had more people who came out to help me than I ever thought possible. And you have heard in the course of this morning, I don't know, maybe 50 times the advice to ask for help. I can only say that do it, because it will happen with little effort even. People want to be helpful. Men really want to be helpful. And so they would like to know if you want help. They don't want to come up to you to see if that, do you need help? I mean, sometimes that happens, but not very often. And so I would just encourage women to do that. It was helpful for me, and I would think it would be helpful for you. As another note, when I give frequent talks, I have almost never had a woman come up to me afterwards, and I get asked for help by men all the time. So again, just my own experience is that no one's even asking me or offering for me to help. And again, these are virtual, so it's hard for me to know who I'm impacting or not. I mean, we can't even see the audience at this point. So, again, you don't know what resonates and what doesn't. So I think just reaching out and asking for help is always a good idea.
Excellent advice. And Holly, you have anything to share?
I absolutely want to associate myself with the remarks of Dara and Suzanne. Entirely agree. I would love to add a few other thoughts. This is just one measurement, but according to some terrific work that the USPTO has done, only 13% of all women on a U.S. patent in 2019 were on a U.S. patent in 2019 women. So we absolutely have to celebrate those women and people of color who have made it in the innovation ecosystem. But I do think we have to acknowledge that we have a tremendous amount of work to do to get to where we want to be. And one thing that I think is really useful is to think about it in terms of buckets. There are things that individuals can do themselves. There are institutions that need to be changed. And then there are public policies that need to be changed. And I think if we work on all those different fronts, we will make progress, and we are making progress. I think one of the developments over the last 5 years is that people are looking more closely at all the different phases of the innovation ecosystem to try to dig into more what we can do, because many people had this sense that it was just a, quote, pipeline problem. That if we had enough women and people of color who got certain kinds of STEM degrees, that this problem would solve itself. And that's certainly, as we've seen, it's not the case, because there are just so many points along the way as somebody is trying to succeed in this field that they could advance or be set back. And so I think it's up to all of us to think about the complexity of the situation and try to figure out how we can make change. One really interesting piece of research that we have come across is work by Dr. Alex Bell about the exposure effect, the idea that somebody is much more likely to become an inventor if they're exposed as a child to other inventors. And it even gets down to the level of if they're, if maybe one of their friends' parents or their scout leader or somebody invents in a certain field, it's more likely later in life that they will invent in that field. So a focus on invention education at early ages, clearly more investment in STEM education. We also want to ensure that our universities and employers have fair employment policies, because we know that there still is discrimination. And I think the pandemic has really laid bare some of the work, family, and work-life challenges that people face when schools have been closed and childcare centers have been closed. I mean, sadly, we are at the lowest level we have been in years in terms of workforce participation by women. But we can think of entrepreneurial activities and other types of innovative careers as opportunities for women to have more control of their time and their lives. So I do think it's important to sort of focus on all these areas. We've talked a lot about networking and mentoring. Absolutely no doubt that that's an important piece of the equation, as is access to capital. So, you've got this great business idea, but you need to convince somebody to give you the capital to get that business going. So there is no one size fits all solution, but I think we're in a much better place of understanding all of the different levers that we need to use to try to improve the situation.
Absolutely. So we've had a couple of questions already come in based on the comments you've already given us. So I'm going to take one now because I think it fits perfectly with what we've been discussing. And just as a preface to the question, one of the things that I found throughout my career and even now, sometimes I think maybe more so, where I do have a voice, I use that voice, yet somehow, and I've known other women who have gone through this as well, it wasn't really addressed, what I've said, until my counterpart male in the room said it, as if it was the first time it had been heard, and that's a challenge that I face now, that I must overcome now as a woman, as a leader in OPQA. I know there are big challenges for each of you as leaders. You're all three, and I'm proud to say, I've witnessed hearing you speak and speaking to you, very strong women who have forged your way in this career, and you've made something, created something beyond what you found in it. But that doesn't mean you don't have challenges still as leaders in your fields. If you could each maybe share some of the challenges that you're still meeting as a leader in your field. And if we could start with Suzanne.
Sure. So I have less challenges about being a woman. For me, in the legal, since I work in intellectual property, for me, I still get challenged a lot about not being an attorney. And, I will say that the legal profession is not very open to hearing other opinions, right? And so, my perspective has been that business people need to understand intellectual property in order to help make better informed decisions. And so really, when I start to question things or I start talking with business folks, and if that's in-house counsel or outside counsel, I can often say that many attorneys don't appreciate being questioned about what they're doing, particularly since I've spent 30 years creating best practices. But I think we need to be more open to different types of thought, that no one function or no one type of a person has all the answers in anything, and it's that diversity of thought I would like to really push for in organizations.
Well, thank you. That's a very unique perspective for the IP field and innovation field. So thank you very much. Polly, can you also share some of the challenges in your position now?
Absolutely. I remember Suzanne earlier in this event said something about being the only woman in the room, and I'm sure all of us have had that experience more times than we possibly can count or remember. And it is a challenge. It continues to be a challenge. I think some of the research shows that institutions don't really change until about a third of the people are from, whatever the minority group is. And I think we probably all experience that. And I think it's a matter of getting up every day and trying your best and doing it again, and having your support system. Those people that you can always go to who are gonna have your back. You invest in other people and you're that person for them. And then there are people who are that for you. And, it's not always exactly the same people. And sometimes you feel like you don't have everything you need in the way of support, but I highly recommend that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And Dara?
Question. I've got to say, honestly, the challenge that I face daily is public speaking. I can't stand it. And that's one of the reasons why I became a patent attorney. I was like, well, I'll just go do my job. I'll, review.
As you're here on this panel.
Right. But this is the reason I do this is because even though I think I don't know much, I evidently know something because I've done okay in this career of mine. But I think it's incumbent upon me and other people like me to share our experiences, right? So with that comes public speaking. And it's about forcing yourself into that uncomfortable place. And so the more you do it, the better you get at it. But I don't like it until it's over. But so that's why I would say, I would challenge anybody to lean into their discomfort, right? Because once you do that, you're not only benefiting yourself, but you're benefiting others because, I think the benefit that I bring is not the public speaking, but it's just the sharing of the journey and, what have I experienced that helps somebody else. So there's that challenge. And then, on a daily basis, I run into stuff that I'm like, how do I deal with that? So it's a challenge every day. I say I solve one problem and then two more show up. I'm like, really? But yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to move on a little bit to another topic I wanted to share with you. And we've actually had a couple of questions that have come in that really fit into it. It's about resources that are out there to support and to help along the way of this pathway of innovation. So the first question along this way from our audience is, are there online networking groups that you know of that we can connect and find like-minded peers? So any type of networking organizations that can support.
So actually, I was going to talk about some of the resources, and some of them have pivoted to be online, so I can kind of talk about those. And honestly, a lot of the work that I do, or all of the work that I do, is internal, right? So all of my clients are at P&G. So I don't have to go too far to get help. But I do try to reach externally. So for my own benefit, like I might reach out to AIPLA and IPO, so American Intellectual Property Law Association or Intellectual Property Owners Association, for consults with my legal counterparts, but they also have mentoring programs for inventors and members that are attorneys. So I would say look into those organizations because they will partner you with people who are maybe in the same geographic location. So from a time zone standpoint, it's easier. You guys can talk about intellectual property, whatever whether it's patent or trademark or copyright related, and then maybe you have a commonality in the area of technology. The other thing that I would recommend is the Small Business Development Center. Now, this is something that is present here in the Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky area, and they have partnered with Northern Kentucky University and in Northern Kentucky, but also at the Urban League in Cincinnati. So I would, ask people to check out their Urban League in their respective region because they may very well have an SBDC that is offering services virtually. So they've got one-to-one consultations and they offer comprehensive business management and inclusion services. And they do this at no cost to entrepreneurs. And then I think piggybacking on I think Kimberly mentioned it, SCORE. They are the nation's largest network of volunteers, and they've got some expert business mentors that are here to talk to small businesses to help them get off the ground and provide a lot of resources. I mean, I was taken aback by, the vast amount of resources that they've got. They've got like over 10,000 volunteers that are focused on helping, entrepreneurs succeed, and they offer, when we're in a normal world, they have in-person events, but they've also got live and recorded webinars and courses on demand. And they've also got, I think, and I checked into this, is their online resource library. I mean, they've got all kinds of tools that startups can use. And then also here in Ohio, we have a women's business center, and they actually offer various office services like co-working office space, and they help with loan package preparation and mentoring. So that's just in this area. So I'm certain that there are counterparts around the nation. So if you just look into mentoring. And then finally, I would probably just say podcasts. I mean, I never would have thought you could learn so much from podcasts, but for me, listening to other people's stories of success has been pretty insightful. So there's this one podcast called How I Built This with Guy Raz, and it's R-A-Z, and it's an NPR podcast. So there he talks to folks at Strava, Chipotle. There's an Act One group, and that organization was founded by a lady that went to my alma mater, North Carolina A&T. So she was like one of the first Black billionaires in the U.S., and that's just a talent management organization that she's developed. And then you've got like the Lip Bar, a cosmetic company, Lyft, Yelp, and then of course Bumble. So I mean, it's just great to hear about how these other companies have started up and succeeded. Yeah,
absolutely. Thank you. That's a wealth of information. Thank you so much, Holly. And any that you would like to share?
That was really impressive. And I wholly endorse the idea of getting involved with professional associations. I mean, I know how important that has been for me in my career. The Women's Bar Association in particular, when I was a more junior attorney, was both a professional home, but also a place where I found friends and people that I continue to talk to today. So I think for every different person, it's maybe some different professional association. There's associations for women engineers, for Black engineers. It really, honestly, like whatever area you're in, Dara mentioned the intellectual property associations, which have women and diversity subsets of them. I think universities can be great places if you're at that stage in your life. The Institute for Women's Policy Research did a paper where they covered the best practices programs. So a number of different universities, and this of course is more in person, but I think many of them have online components now, but women's entrepreneurship programs. So University of Florida, University of Illinois, the Association for Women in Science has a great entrepreneurship program. So their local inventor club, if that's your thing. I think, you know, just think of like what kind of people would you like to hang out? Because there's likely an organization for that.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Once again, a wealth of information. And Suzanne, I'll ask you to also share.
Yeah, so I don't know how much more I can add to that, but I would say that I would look at places like the National Venture Capital Association, where they have a lot of draft contracts and investor things. You can learn how to do a pitch. I mean, again, I find here in Silicon Valley Bank, First Republic Bank, both offer introductions to investors if you're a client, and also they can hook you up with some resources about what loans are available, all of those types of things. So try to be also a little bit unconventional in who you're going to and asking for help. I also know that a lot of alumni associations at universities, whether undergrad or grad, offer, again, a lot of networking groups and places to showcase what you've learned or even to hear about what other people are doing. So try to think a little bit out of the box.
Absolutely, absolutely great advice. And I'll just say from the side of the USPTO, we have events such as this, the Women's Symposium, where normally is on our headquarter campus, but also, you know, even in this virtual environment, sharing in the chat, giving information to each other. A lot comes out of coming to events like this, or the USPTO also yearly puts on Invention Con, where we bring entrepreneurs, VCs, attorneys in to discuss innovation and growing your invention and growing your ideas. And from each other. It's absolutely amazing, the ideas that come out from the people who come to get more information, and they're so willing to share. So attending events like this, I think is a huge step also. So we do have another question along the line of resources, and the question is, as a finance professional, a lot of my clients are women and minority-owned businesses. For the ones that express ideas around launching an invention or solution, do you have suggestions as to next best steps to take for them? And maybe Suzanne, if you don't mind starting.
Yeah, so I think the first thing you have to decide is whether or not you can have intellectual property protection. That's first and foremost. You know, whether you get a patent or a trademark or have a trade secret, these are all forms of competitive advantage, and you need to understand whether that's something that will work with your invention or not. The second thing I would try to do is figure out, you know, is this a little idea or is this a big idea? Is it worth $1? Is it worth $1 million? I mean, if I were to go to Dara with an invention, the first thing she's going to want to know is like, how important is it, right? Is this something that's going to work for all people, or is it going to work for like 5 people, right? So you need some sort of scale option or scaling or scope or an understanding of what is this going to do, and is it enough to make a whole business around it, or is it just one incremental idea that maybe is interesting, but you couldn't start a whole business around? So, you know, those are just a few quick and dirty ideas.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Holly?
Well, I think Suzanne is the real expert on this, and appreciate her thoughts. I would encourage people to recognize that even though legal help for protecting your intellectual property can be very expensive, there are pro bono resources available for that. Valencia, I know the USPTO has a strong program. Many law schools actually have clinics that can help with this, but I can't reiterate enough how important that piece of it is, because we know how key that intellectual property can be for the later success of the business, in terms of garnering venture capital, in terms of there's research that's been done that shows that 5 years later, a startup that had a patent or patents on average has 16 more employees than startups that didn't have a patent. So would very much encourage people to protect that intellectual property.
Thank you. And Dara, from the point of view from the corporate side, do you have any advice?
I was going to say, because I don't have much experience from the entrepreneurial aspect of it, but as a corporate attorney, I know we are approached with requests for consideration of ideas all the time. But what is critical for us is that that person has protected their idea, because, you know, we as a larger entity do not want to be accused of having stolen an idea. So it really helps if it's already memorialized in some type of intellectual property, and then we can evaluate, is that something that, to Suzanne's point, is worth, you know, our time? Is it something that we've seen a consumer indicate interest in, and we haven't necessarily put the work forth, but you have as the inventor. So having that IP base gives us a really good running start to have a conversation, because maybe maybe you are an entrepreneur that invents, maybe you don't produce, maybe you just license and get rich that way.
Absolutely, thank you.
Yep.
So we did have another question that came in. The question is, do you know about university programs that have programs to support women with a startup program or as business accelerators? And maybe, you know, beyond, because university programs do have it, but if you know of any other programs as well, it's beyond universities. We have federal government programs. We have corporations that have them, private owners. So if you have any information, and start with Holly on these types of programs.
Well, Valencia, we should definitely put in the resources this report by the Institute for Women's Policy Research, because they do cover, I think it's about 8 or so best practice programs. And I think these are just the kinds of programs that the person asking the question is looking for. I am not aware of one resource that has all these programs together, but I do think I am aware of these programs at Florida, University of Illinois, and the Association for Women in Science as at least a starting point.
Absolutely. And Suzanne, anything to share on this point?
Yeah, actually, corporations are doing more and more and more. So Comcast is a great example of that. They have actually an accelerator where you can apply to be a part of it. It's like a 3-month program. You come in and they provide you some resources, about what to do with your invention. You don't have it can have nothing to do with Comcast business, but they're just all good ideas. They will actually have Comcast executives come and mentor many of the people in the program. Some of the technologies do apply to Comcast business, and they might pick that up. Maybe they don't, I'm not sure. So I think more and more companies are beginning to realize the value of helping to build that entrepreneurial community in their locations, and they're also networking together. So Comcast can also point you to 10 or 12 other places and other locations of companies who are doing similar types of things. And also, I'll just put a plug for the military. Naval X is an example. A lot of the military are now creating innovation funds to help find technologies that can be utilized within the military to scale up faster. So those are other sources that may not be on people's radars.
Thank you. Thank you. And Dara?
Sure. So I did mention the Small Business Development Center that's based at NKU here in the Urban League, and I'm pretty sure it's not limited to that university, so I would probably give that a Google to see where else it exists. But here in Cincinnati, to Holly's point, we have an organization called Centrifuge, and it's a 501c3 partnership that has been established to help build sustainable tech-based economies here in the area. So you've got folks there serving as advocates for entrepreneurs in the high growth tech space and those startups. And like Suzanne mentioned, we've got a number of big companies, and P&G is one of them, partnering with universities and private investors and other startups, trying to make Cincinnati like a technology hub. So I would probably, check out Centrifuge to see if there is a similar model in your area, because even though we'd like Cincinnati to be the hub in the Midwest for technology, I'm sure there are other areas that are doing the same thing. Yeah.
Thank you. So some that I have heard of, I know NYU has a program for startups. So they have a great program that is open actually to anyone. There's some universities like Virginia Tech, and there's others where it's more surrounded around their students, and but they're programs that you can certainly go onto their web pages and take a look at to help get ideas from. Also, government agencies like NSF has an amazing program for startups and getting the right start and moving on to grants. And of course, there's the Small Business Administration that has grant programs, as well as the Minority Business Administration that can help gear you in the right direction. So there are actually many out there that can help, but all of you have given great information for our participants. So I had a series, we have about 6 minutes left. I had a series of questions that I wanted to ask, but the questions that have been coming in are just so fantastic. I think I'll ask another of those of the entire panel. It's, what is the one thing that helped you achieve your leadership role that you would suggest to others to follow, and for young women just starting in the corporate world? And if we could start with Suzanne.
Wow, that's actually kind of difficult. Like, Dara, is this your nightmare, right? Honestly, you have to believe in yourself. You have to believe that your ideas are valuable and your ideas should be heard. And I can say that while I don't always understand, or I see when someone doesn't have that quality, right? I went to graduate school, and when we were all interviewing for jobs, how I was treated versus some of my other women colleagues were wildly different, right? They got all sorts of questions that they shouldn't have gotten, things that were not at all HR appropriate, and I didn't have any of that. And I think it's just that I came in with I'm going to do this, I'm going to be successful. And I know that sounds silly, but it makes a big difference for you to project that face to the world. And it's important to believe it. And even if you don't believe it, then fake it till you make it. But you have to project that air. It becomes really important.
Absolutely agree completely. Ali, do you have anything to add?
Well, second that, but also I think some concepts related to perseverance and grit. Grit is sort of an in word these days, but just the idea that you're gonna get up every day and you're gonna keep trying. And part of that does involve trying to tune out all of the negative messages that one might get. When, of course, you have to listen too, because you could learn something valuable from feedback. But unfortunately, a lot of feedback, particularly for women, people of color, younger people, people who maybe didn't come from the elite parts of society or education system, there are things you want to tune out, and you need to believe in yourself and persevere and keep trying even though things are hard. It's the long game.
Yes,
It's
absolutely.
the long game.
Absolutely. Dara?
Sure. Honestly, I have to piggyback on what Holly said. For me, I think it's been my ability to take constructive feedback and process it and improve upon it. I've seen a number of people in my field that are not receptive to feedback, and they don't go far. Or if they don't go far. They may stay around, but they don't go far. So I think being open, and I think pairing that with humility, like being able to hear that and say, okay, I need to pivot and do something different to achieve, what the client wants or what the business needs, that has gone a long way for me. And then I think it also helps that people see that in you. And when I say people, not necessarily the people above you, but the people below you, because then that makes it okay for them to accept the feedback that you're giving them, because again, you're investing in them. It's a gift, and they should take that with all the seriousness that you're delivering it. So.
Absolutely. Thank you. I would just share from my own side. One of the things that we've already talked about that was really crucial for me in my career was mentorship, and really putting yourself out there to others. It's not always going to be someone's going to come to you and want to cradle you and tell you what to do. You have to put yourself out. You have to build your network. And for me, there are two strong mentors in my career. One, an African-American woman who mentored me that I could completely relate to, and she could relate to what I was going through. And I found that just the advice she gave me amazing. But the other is a man about 30 years older than me that I had absolutely nothing in common with. But hearing his perspective on things and understanding a different point of view, I found to be, also very crucial as part of my career. So, just as this panel has said, really look to the people around you and absorb it all and put yourself out there. Meek is not going to get you there. And it's okay to make mistakes at times as long as you're learning from those mistakes and growing. So I know we're at the very end, but I'm going to ask if each of our panelists might just have one thing to leave our participants with on this topic about the careers and the time and working, and what have you seen the progress that's really stuck to you and really you felt strongly about in your career over the last few years about women in this field, where we're going. What's really resonated with you? And if we can start with Suzanne.
I think the most important thing is don't be afraid of failure. I mean, if you haven't failed, you haven't tried hard enough, honestly. And, I'm in Silicon Valley, and investors won't fund someone who hasn't failed, because then you don't know what to do, right? If that's your biggest fear, then you're never going to push it hard enough to actually fail. And frankly, as an inventor, you're going to fail. You'll probably fail multiple times. Half the time, it won't even be your fault. So you just need to learn how to adapt and keep moving, and because it's going to happen. So don't be afraid of that. Wear it as a badge of honor.
Thank you. And Holly?
Well, thanks so much, Valencia, for having me. And I do want to say that this has really been a time in the history of our country where there's much more focus on race and gender. And I think we have to take that as an opportunity. One thing I am heartened about is that even though we feel like maybe there are many partisan battles that are being fought in our country, this is an issue that I've seen members of Congress from all parts come together and say that this is an important problem to solve. So the Congress passed the Success Act. The USPTO did tremendous research on these issues. That led to the creation of the National Council for Expanding American Innovation, which is going to be putting out a national strategy and report in June. The Congress is working on new legislation called the IDEA Act, and I would encourage everybody to take a look. We've got that on our website at inventtogether.org. Learn about that, support that legislation. That will drive even more attention and knowledge to both understanding the patent gaps and what the problems are, but also the solution. And so, I mean, I'm excited because there's a focus on these issues, and I think there's real interest in trying to make progress.
Thank you. And Dara, I will give you the last word.
Honestly, I would say women still need to keep entering the STEM field. For some reason, there's a scarcity. I don't know how that is after 20 years ago when I thought we were making headway, but I think we need to just keep on pressing, and I think offering up practical but bold solutions on the various problems that we're encountering, because we're always skilled at wearing multiple hats. So let's wear those bold, practical solution hats. And then just reiterating what Suzanne said, just don't be afraid to try and fail. Get out of your own head.
Yes. Thank you to our panelists. You've done just what, yet again, I've had such an amazing conversation with you all and learned so much. So thank you so much for giving us your time. And I will give it back to Sean.